Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Tiffany Valiante? Tiffany was the topic of an Unsolved Mysteries episode titled The Mystery at Mile Marker 45. Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. This case takes place in Mays Landing, New Jersey, in July of 2015. Mays Landing is about a half hour west of Atlantic City. It is considered a peaceful, semi-rural community, so nice in fact, residents are sometimes almost able to forget they are in New Jersey. 18-year-old Tiffany Valiante was a recent high school graduate who lived with her parents, Diane and Stephen. Diane was an administrative assistant for a local public school, and Stephen was a maintenance worker for the state of New Jersey. In the fall, Tiffany was planning on attending Mercy College in New York. She had been awarded a scholarship for playing volleyball. Tiffany had some recent disturbances in her love life. She had recently broken up with her girlfriend, but apparently found another love interest. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. On July 12, 2015, Tiffany and her parents attended a graduation party for Tiffany's cousin. The party was being held in the home of Stephen's brother, which was across the street from where Tiffany and her family lived. At 9:15 p.m., Tiffany walked back home from the party. Around the same time, Diane and Stephen received a phone call from one of Tiffany's close friends. The friend said that she needed to speak with them in person. Therefore, the couple left the party and returned to their residence. Tiffany's friend, who was accompanied by her mother, told Tiffany's parents that Tiffany had used her debit card without permission and purchased $300 worth of food and clothing. It would later be revealed that the actual amount was $86. Tiffany's parents called Tiffany on her cell phone. Within a minute or two, she joined the conversation in person. Tiffany denied using her friend's debit card. Her friend and her mother left at 9:24 p.m. Diane started to search Tiffany's car when she noticed that Tiffany put the card in her back pocket, like Tiffany was trying to sneak it in her pocket without anyone seeing. Diane realized that Tiffany was guilty. She went inside the house to get her husband, Stephen. Diane and Stephen walked out of the house at 9:29 p.m. in order to speak with Tiffany, but Tiffany was not there. Sometime later, the police would check a deer camera the couple had at the end of their driveway. It had captured an image of Tiffany walking away at 9:28 p.m., just 1 minute before her parents exited the house to speak with her. Family members started searching for Tiffany. At around 11 p.m., Stephen saw Tiffany's cell phone near the end of the driveway. At around the same time, other events were developing. New Jersey Transit Train 4692 had become disabled, and another train, 4693, had been sent to pick up the stranded passengers and bring them to Atlantic City. Train 4693 was traveling east at 80 miles per hour when the apprentice engineer saw Tiffany on the tracks. He blew the horn and activated the emergency brakes. At 11:07 p.m., the train struck and killed Tiffany. This was near Tilton Road in Galloway Township, mile marker 45. This was 3.5 miles from Tiffany's residence. It took the train 2,063 feet to come to a stop. Tiffany had been dragged by the train, her body was dismembered, and her head was completely crushed. When Tiffany was killed, she was only wearing underwear and a bra. Her shoes, headband, and shorts were all missing. Because this incident occurred on railroad tracks operated by New Jersey Transit, it was in the jurisdiction of the New Jersey Transit Police Department. The day after Tiffany's death, the police department reported that Tiffany had stepped in front of a train of her own volition. Now moving to my analysis. There were a few unusual circumstances in this case, which do not necessarily fit with the theory offered by the New Jersey Transit Police. This has led several people, including Tiffany's parents, to believe that Tiffany was the victim of foul play. This leads to the question, was Tiffany Valiante the victim of homicide? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that she was murdered, starting with the factors that support this theory. The apprentice engineer on train 4693 provided different stories about what happened the night Tiffany was killed. In one version, he said that Tiffany darted out from the woods and ran onto the tracks. In another version, he said he didn't see Tiffany until the train was right on top of her. In the third version, which was provided under oath 6 days after Tiffany was killed, he said that he first saw Tiffany when she was about a half a mile away from the train. Tiffany was crouched alongside the tracks. As the train approached, she stood up and dove in front of it. The senior engineer also changed his story. He initially told investigators that he instructed the apprentice engineer to blow the horn and ring the bell as he applied the emergency brakes. Later, under oath, he said that he was talking to the conductor and had his back to the cab. He didn't see anything. The autopsy revealed that Tiffany did not have any drugs or alcohol in her system. It seems unusual that someone not under the influence of substances would dart out in front of a train. Tiffany was afraid of the dark. It's difficult to imagine that she would walk about 3.5 miles at night and, in particular, along the railroad tracks, which were lined with trees and very dark. An axe with red markings on it was found near the scene of the collision. Before it could be tested, the police lost it. 3 weeks after Tiffany died, her mother Diane found Tiffany's shoes and headband about 1.75 miles from where Tiffany was struck and killed. The items were on the side of a road. This meant that Tiffany may have walked that distance to the train tracks, yet the bottoms of Tiffany's feet did not look like she had walked barefoot across gravel or any other rough surface. Perhaps Tiffany was transported in a motor vehicle, like a killer gave her a ride. The police received a report from a Wawa convenience store manager who claimed that he overheard 3 employees talking about how Tiffany had been murdered. Now moving to the factors that work against the idea that Tiffany was murdered. Life at home for Tiffany was not always without conflict. In 2014, Tiffany's teachers noticed that she had a bruise on her arm and notified the authorities. Child protection workers visited the Valiante home 3 times. Diane admitted that she punched Tiffany after an argument, which is what caused the bruise. Diane and Tiffany agreed to seek mental health counseling. On November 17 of that year, they attended their first and only counseling session. Diane revealed to the psychotherapist that she had been short-tempered lately. On November 19, Tiffany's grandfather died. After this, Tiffany started using marijuana and would miss classes at school. She also took money from Diane's bank account just before Christmas. In early 2015, Tiffany came out as gay. She started dating a woman, but they broke up. She met another woman online and started a new relationship. Perhaps Tiffany was struggling with the breakup, the new relationship, or both. One of Tiffany's classmates said that Tiffany started acting differently in the months preceding her death. She was feeling distant from her parents, as well as lonely. Another classmate said that Tiffany texted a friend on the night she died with the message, quote, "Just answer yes or no. Should I do it?" unquote. Tiffany was described as impulsive, having a hot temper, and depressed. 2 of her friends revealed that Tiffany had intentionally cut herself on 2 occasions. Tiffany had stolen money from her parents 2 months before she was killed. Tiffany was distressed about 2 hours before she died. She had just been caught stealing. Perhaps she was overwhelmed with embarrassment about her own behavior. 4 days after Tiffany was killed, the police sent a canine handler and a bloodhound to Tiffany's house. The canine handler did not know where Tiffany had been killed. The idea was to let the dog conduct a track from Tiffany's house and determine the path that she traveled. The dog led the handler along the 3.5-mile route to the general area where Tiffany had been struck by the train. As far as the Wawa manager who said that he heard 3 employees talking about Tiffany's murder, those employees denied saying anything about the case. They seemed genuinely surprised that anyone would indicate that they had said anything. The story the manager provided was inconsistent with the facts of the case. For example, he said that Tiffany and the friend who accused her of using the debit card had argued at the graduation party in front of a crowd. The manager also said the friend had no contact with Tiffany's parents after Tiffany was killed. Neither of those statements was true. If Tiffany was murdered, that means there would have to be a killer out there somewhere. Who is the killer? Nobody has seen them. Headlights were captured in that deer camera as Tiffany was walking away. Perhaps that was the killer's vehicle, or just another vehicle with headlights. Tiffany did not plan to walk away from her house. It seems like it was an impulsive decision. This would mean that the killer was an opportunist. They saw Tiffany and impulsively decided to commit murder. It is highly unusual with any homicide for a killer to place a victim on railroad tracks, whether the victim is alive or dead at the time. Most killers would like the victim's body never to be found, or at least not to be found for a while. Placing a body on railroad tracks guarantees the body will be found. The New Jersey Transit Police ran a haphazard investigation, but that doesn't mean there was a murder. Some have said that this police department is not familiar with murder investigations. This is probably true, but the department is in New Jersey. Transit vehicles run through both Camden and Newark. They probably deal with more murders than it would initially seem. I can understand why they wouldn't want to advertise this, however. Transit riders might be a little discouraged if the motto for New Jersey Transit was, "Ride New Jersey Transit. We have seen more murders than you think." Or, "With New Jersey Transit, we get every rider to work on time, minus the victims of homicide." When considering the evidence, do I think that Tiffany Valiante was murdered? No, I do not think that homicide was involved in this case. Here's what I think happened in this case. This is just a theory, my opinion. Tiffany was having a rough time across several dimensions. Turbulent romantic relationships that had changed recently, feelings of depression, unauthorized money removal behavior, arguments at home, and she was facing a major change in her routine with her enrollment in college. I think that Tiffany simply became overwhelmed that night when she was caught stealing. She threw her phone on the ground and just walked away in frustration. She did not necessarily have a plan, but she knew that she could not cope with the pain very well. She was tired of suffering. She agonized over many aspects of her life and reached a breaking point. Tiffany decided to walk along the railroad tracks. She didn't know if a train was coming or not. Again, train 4693 was only there because another train was disabled. When Tiffany saw the train approaching, she made an impulsive decision, which came at the ultimate cost. Moving to the last item, what do I think of the Unsolved Mysteries episode on this case? The Unsolved Mysteries TV series has a reputation for leaving out important details. I think they do this to keep the stories balanced on an edge, rather than leaning in favor of either side. This is a particularly frustrating habit of theirs, but there is something the series does exceptionally well. They are able to communicate the feelings of the people involved in the case. The episode on Tiffany was no exception. It was clear that during her life, and after her death, she was loved by many family members and friends. There is a sadness that weighs on everyone connected to the case. With each mystery that results in death, it is important that the human component is never overlooked. Those are my thoughts in the case of Tiffany Valiante. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.